My name is Ray, and welcome back to another episode of Ray's Investment Clue Book. Today, we're continuing our introduction to equity by talking about common stocks and their voting rights. So last time we introduced you all to common stocks, and common stocks, as we know, can be an excellent investment with a decent potential for returns. And so basically they have returns through dividend payouts that can provide passive, consistent income for you. They also can provide returns through capital appreciation through their market value increasing because of 1, business growth, 2, corporate buybacks, and 3, special, say, arbitrary events such as for instance liquidations or mergers and acquisitions. And so with common stocks, they give you ownership in the business. So you're able to vote. In some cases, you're able to vote for the board of directors that really manages the business. So shareholders can vote for a corporate board, and the board candidates are named up derived from the shareholders. The candidates are derived from the shareholders, and so of course shareholders per se could also nominate themselves, which is what many majority shareholders do in some cases. And so usually for many stocks, there are only one class of stock. So each class is uniform and theoretically give you the same. Each share gives you the same amount of voting rights. However, some firms have more than one classes to skew the voting rights in favor of one class. For instance, Google has Class A stock, which gives you 1 vote per share. Class B stock, which gives you 10 votes per share, and Class C stock, which gives you 0 votes per share, which is basically you don't have voting rights. And so Class B, 99% of Class B shares are owned by its 2 founders. So basically, even though those 2 founders may not necessarily have the economic advantage in voting through the ownership of the company, they do have, through the Class B shares, through the way the voting is structured, they do have the advantage when it comes to being able to vote for board of directors. And so convertibility, of course, is also different among these shares. Another example, of course, be Snapchat shares or Snap stock. Of course, the one that you find publicly traded have 0 voting rights, and other classes have, for per se its owners, have voting rights. And so there are really 2 main types of voting methods for shareholder voting. One is a statutory vote, or basically the regular standard vote. It's a straight vote, so one vote for each candidate, and it's divided among all the candidates depending on how many shares you have. And so the majority basically always wins for the entire board. Mathematically speaking, the majority always wins. Of course, there's also a cumulative vote, which gives more freedom to the shareholders, especially minority shareholders, to how to allocate their votes. So the total number of votes that are available are the total number of shares that you have multiplied by the number of seats. And so, as in cumulative vote, you do not necessarily have to cast one straight vote for each candidate and have to distribute your votes in a certain rigid manner. You can distribute your votes based off your own discretion. So you can distribute all your votes to one candidate and just place all the probability on that one candidate winning. And so minority shareholders in this case can now win at least some assets in some board of directors. So let's look at an example. So let's say we have 2 types of shareholders. We have the majority shareholder in the red and minority shareholder in the blue. So the minority shareholder has 90 total shares, and the majority shareholder has 210 total shares. So in straight voting, the majority shareholder would have to put 70 votes per candidate, since there are 3 candidates, and 210 divided by 3 is obviously 70. And the minority voter would have to put 30 votes for each candidate, since 90 divided by 3 is 30. So in all 3 cases, all 3 board members are won by the majority vote. So basically that's how straight voting works. And cumulative voting is different. So cumulative voting, the minority shareholder does not have to put exactly 30 votes for each candidate. He or she may put all their votes in one candidate so that they can ensure that they win at least 1 seat in the board of directors. So for instance, in this case, they have 90 total votes because they own 90 shares. So they can put all 90 votes in the first seat and 0 votes for the rest of the seats, or 90 votes for a second seat, or 90 votes for a third seat, and subsequently put 0 votes for the rest of the seats. In this case, they are guaranteed to win at least 1 seat because mathematically speaking, there is no way that the majority voter with 210 total shares can beat them in all 3 seats. They cannot put 91 votes or at least 90 votes in all 3 seats because they do not have that many shares. So in this case, the minority shareholder at least earns some representation, and they have some more freedom when it comes to their voting discretion. So mathematically speaking, the number of shares that the minority voter will need to win at least 1 seat, or to win at least a number of seats that they want to win, is represented by the equation number of shares needed is equal to or greater than or equal to the total share numbers between the 2 candidates, which in this case is 100 because you see straight voting 70 plus 30 is 100, 70 for A, 30 for D. So 100 votes, total number of share numbers, divided by number of directors they would need to win or want to win, which in this case they want to win at least one director. So the number for N is 1. So total share numbers times number of directors needed to win divided by number of directors up for election plus 1. So in this case, there are 3 directors up for election, so there are 3 plus 1 is 4. It's 25. However, they also need to add 1 to that, because if they have 25, they only have 25. Let's say straight voting now, A has 75, D has 25. So if the minority shareholder only has 25 votes, they at most put 75 in D, and then straight voting A will also put 75, and in that case they would be tied and they will not get their director. So they need to add 1 to that equation to just put them over the edge for a number of votes they need to win at least 1 director. So they need 26 in this case per director, so a total of 78 total votes for the minority to ensure at least 1 victory. So for our final clues, common shareholders usually in most cases can vote, and corporate activists can also seek to create alpha opportunity, because through perhaps you can say their manipulation almost of the voting system of a corporation, they can ensure they have an ample voice within the corporation through proxy votes. And so, of course, many examples we see of the hedge fund community, hedge fund industry use this. For instance, the Triumph Fund versus PepsiCo in 2013, which forced PepsiCo to produce results for the Triumph Fund because of Triumph Fund's intervention within PepsiCo's management. And we will, of course, be expanding upon this later in future videos. These strategies will be expanded later in future videos. So thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.